Coming up on Network Africa. Opposition candidates warned the Electoral Commission against announcing fake results in the DRC. Madagascar's court confirms Andry Rajoelina as president. And African migrants stranded at sea despair for future amid wait for EU port. Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Teniola Shobowale. Opposition presidential candidate Martin Fayulu is warning election officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo not to disguise the truth as tensions mount over the delayed result. Mr. Fayulu said the Congolese people already know the result of the vote, which took place on December 30th. The election outcome was initially expected to be announced on January 6. The poll is to establish a successor to President Joseph Kabila, who is stepping down after 18 years as president. Mr. Kabila has promised that the polls, which were supposed to have taken place 2 years ago, will be the country's first orderly transfer of power since it gained independence from Belgium in 1960. Meanwhile, suspense is growing in the country as citizens expect results in the coming days. The Electoral Commission officials are currently deliberating and evaluating presidential election results, after which they will announce a winner. Their meeting started on Tuesday evening and can last 2 or 3 days. Spokesperson for the Electoral Commission says deliberations usually take between 24 and 48 hours. However, they said that there are no limitations and the board will announce provisional results when they are ready. A heavy riot police presence was seen in the capital, blocking access to the Electoral Commission's office. There are widespread concerns that a contested result could spark unrest. The country's powerful Catholic Church has called on the authorities to reflect the will of the people in the results. Madagascar's top court has proclaimed former leader Andry Rajoelina the winner of a hard-fought presidential vote, rejecting his rival's accusations of fraud. High Constitutional Court chairman ratified results given by the Indian Ocean Islands Electoral Board last month, saying Rajoelina won 55.66% of vote versus 44.34% for Mark Ravalomanana. Both men were in court for Tuesday's ruling. In 2009, he had ousted Ravalomanana in a coup. Madagascar is one of Africa's poorest nations, with about 80% of its 25 million people living on less than $2 per day. It is pining hopes for development on mining and tourism. Hundreds of protesters have marched in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, in support of President Omar al-Bashir. Sudan's ruling party organized the pro-Bashir demonstrations after a week of sustained anti-government protests throughout the country, in which at least 10 people have been killed. Anti-government protesters also expect to march to the National Assembly to hand over a memorandum to the Speaker calling on the government to resign. President Omar al-Bashir is under pressure from activists to stand down over the spiraling cost of living. The protests were triggered last month by a sharp rise in the price of bread, but have now turned into a clamor for regime change. Meanwhile, Sudan-born telecoms billionaire Mo Ibrahim is asking for the International Criminal Court to drop charges against Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir if he agrees to step down. He was talking in reaction to the protest in the country demanding Mr. Bashir's resignation. President Bashir is accused by the ICC of organizing war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur, allegations which he denies. This means he could be arrested in any country which is a member of the ICC. Residents of the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia have blocked military trucks that have been withdrawing from the border with Eritrea. It is the second time they have prevented the armored military vehicles from leaving the border areas. Last month, Ethiopia announced it had started withdrawing its troops from disputed territories along the border with Eritrea as part of the peace deal signed last July between the two countries. The agreement ended 2 decades of a bitter border dispute that claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people between 1998 and 2000. Angry youth in Tigray region have questioned the movement of troops, saying they need clarity about regional security once the military leaves. Dozens of migrants, including 5 children, remain stranded at sea off the coast of Libya, with no EU country offering a safe port for disembarking. Since Interior Minister Matteo Salvini shut Italy's port to migrant rescue ships last June, the EU's Executive Commission often had to conduct lengthy negotiations with member states to share out new arrivals before the rescue ship are allowed to dock.
The fate of these migrants are yet unknown. The Sea-Watch 3, a vessel run by a German humanitarian group, plucked 32 people from an unsafe boat off the coast of Libya on December the 22nd, and another German charity, CI, rescued others on December the 29th. The vessels, carrying a combined 49 people, has been sailing back and forth off the coast of Malta for days. The ship's crew expressed concern about the migrants' mental state, exacerbated by bad weather and seasickness.
The only sustainable outcome is a Europe-wide solution, where all the member states are involved in the solution. And we stop with this kind of ping-ponging from one marine rescue coordination centre to another, each saying, it's not my problem, no, it's Italy's problem, no, it's not Italy's problem, it's Malta's problem. Everyone is trying to get rid of their responsibility. And that's absolutely deplorable, but at the same time, I understand the position of these countries, because they're trying to get rid of the responsibility because not everyone is taking responsibility. And that is a huge failing for Europe. A massive failing for Europe.
Diamond is a Nigerian man. He was rescued by the Sea-Watch 3. He says everyone was dying slowly, waiting for help.
No sleeping in the net because of the wave. We are dying slowly in this place. We are dying slowly in this place because it's what we didn't expect.
Emmanuel and other Nigerian migrants called for the EU and the United Nations to help them.
We're not okay. We really need the European help right now. The UN, we really need their help because we are not comfortable.
Malta, the smallest European Union member state, is asking partners to take in some of the migrants, including another 249 people who were picked up by the Maltese Navy boats in the final week of 2018. 24 humanitarian groups, including Save the Children, asked on Tuesday for an urgent meeting with the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Salvini to try to end the standoff at sea.
Let's get more on this story now from human rights activist Olatunji Larry Bariwa. Happy New Year to you, Olatunji, and it's good to see you.
Happy New Year, Tani.
We understand the vessels carrying 49 people have been sailing back and forth off the coast of Malta for days. What do you think must have been responsible for the delay in rescuing them?
Well, you have to understand the thorny nature of the issue of migration in Europe right now. And if you remember late last year, maybe early in December, there was the global migration pact that was signed, that was endorsed by about 264 countries in Morocco. Many of the European countries pulled out, Hungary pulled out, many of them, Poland pulled out, several, even the United States never took part in that. So you have to understand that it's local politics is a major consideration for European countries, and that's why it's been a thorny issue. And one of the major countries in the center of this crisis is the Italian government. Italy has a far-right government in place, and these guys are totally anti-migration. They don't want migrants, and they have never at any time hidden their dislike for the activities of migrant rescue ships on the Mediterranean waters. So they've always been opposed to this, and Matteo Salvini is gradually becoming very notorious for his rhetorics, and especially inflammatory rhetorics about migrants. So he's been constantly criticizing even the rescue in itself. And so you have to understand that they need to pander to the bloc that put them in office. Migration is also becoming a thorny issue in France. Migration almost cost Angela Merkel a job in the in Germany. So you have to look at this issue is purely local politics, and it's also partly responsible for that is a growing wave of populism and nationalism across Europe. So it is purely politics, but it is unfortunate. It's a very sad development.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Italy took a very strict approach to migration last year. But do you think other EU countries have had enough as well, making results like we're seeing now?
Oh, okay. Concerning this particular incident, the ship that has been refused docking by Malta, by Italy, I think the latest information is around 2 p.m. There's been a deal with about 8 European countries to, share all the people. The Maltese military ship rescued about 249 people earlier, and then you have the German Sea Watch and Sea High rescuing 17 and I think about 32, making 49. I think there's an agreement in place now by 8 countries, which includes Germany, Luxembourg, and all that, to spread them across the region. And I remember earlier today, the Commissioner for Migration in the EU also said something very sadly that this is not one of the finest hours for Europe. I think it's disturbing as it is, but we're going to keep having this issue. But on this particular crisis, I think we have had, a headway this afternoon. There's been a breakthrough this afternoon to absorb them, and they will try and process them in the days to come.
Olatunji, there was a recent report that says that the number of migrants making that dangerous trip has reduced. So what are we doing right, and what do we still need to do?
Okay, as in migrants flowing across the water, the numbers have reduced. If you're talking about the numbers that are going, across, the numbers have reduced drastically, but it's still, whatever numbers still move across the Mediterranean, either through the Canary Island or through Libya or through Morocco, as long as it is still happening, it's still going to be a crisis. But I think at the moment, the EU is taking its leadership role. The United Nations is also involved and needs to, be more prominent, especially in the age of the global migration pact, which has advocated for more, humane treatment of migrants and allowing them to have rights, even while they are being, hosted as refugees or irregular people in those countries. So as it is right now, I think we are going to be dealing with this. And the African countries, like I told you sometimes ago last year, that we are going to be infringing on the rights of these people if you want to stop them from going across the borders. And there are fundamental human rights issues, involved here. And we also need to look at the origin countries, tightening their processes on also improving living conditions on the continent. Some European countries have externalized their border patrol to African countries. Rabat has been receiving a lot of funds from the EU. Libya has been receiving a lot of funds from Italy. Everybody wants to export the blockage of migrants to African countries. They want to stop them on the continent. And then it's also a thing of concern is also the conditions that are being melted out to these people being stopped on the continent. A lot of them are dying. And then you see the condition of the Nigerian migrants who are in Libya camps, in camps, slave camps in Libya sometimes last year. So these issues, it's going to take global collaboration to solve this crisis. And the origin countries have to step up. Nigeria, for one, has to step up. I saw 2 Nigerians being interviewed in that clip, and it's a thing of concern. And we need to stop crisis. If we stop homegrown terrorism and militancy across the continent, it will also help and create jobs for our people. But for now, we are going to have to keep dealing with this.
All right, human rights activist Olatunji Lanre-Bariwa, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa. Still to come on the program. Egyptian footballer Mo Salah bags his second CAF African Player of the Year. Please stay with us.